Hey guys, Saban here with another tutorial on After Effects, and what I'm going to be showing today is how to do the Stromotion effect. And it's really quite a nice effect to do, and if it's pulled off well, it's really quite good, and it's used in a lot of real life edits. And basically I've got an example here, and I just got some random footage that I just recorded today for this tutorial. So as you can see, this is the effect here, where it kind of captures like a frame, so it kind of freezes the frame, but the footage also carries on. And some people may think that is quite a hard effect to do, but it's a little tedious and time consuming, but in the end it's kind of worth it when it's pulled off correctly. And what I'm going to be showing you is how to mask out the character properly, and if you need to, how to motion track the masked out characters to the footage as well. And this isn't the best example as the camera is kind of shaky, but a really good example is when Baker's Tots, he used this in his first skate edit, and he pulled this off so well that it's just really good. But this is it anyway. So as you can see there, that's where he used the effect, the Stromotion effect, and he pulled it off really well, really tracked nicely, and I'm just going to be showing you how to do this today. So if I go into the tutorial composition, I've just got a start marker, and I've got the footage of my brother running where his shoe randomly flies off halfway through, and unfortunately I had to cut the end of the footage as I wouldn't be allowed to upload it to YouTube due to explicit content, because as my brother started to turn around over here to look at me, he wasn't paying attention to the road and he got hit by a 7-ton Range Rover. But I managed to get the footage I needed for this tutorial, so he's still outside on the road because I couldn't be bothered to pick him up. But anyway, I digress. So basically, to start off, what you need to do is duplicate the original footage as many times as you want the character to be repeated. So in the example, I had it duplicated 5 times. I'll just do it 4 times here. So if I just hold down Command and hit D 4 times, and then you see I have 4 extra layers really, but it's exactly the same right now. So I want it to start here on this kind of frame where it looks kind of cool, like him just running off. And if I just put the resolution to full res, as it will help later when we're masking. So what you want to do is you want to cut each layer to where you want the image to, the freeze frame to start. So I want the first one to start about here. So if I hold down Alt and the open bracket, it should just cut the clip there. And now you can go forward and find another spot, and if you want to do it there, you can do it there. If you want to do it there, you can do it there as well. But you want it to be relatively evenly spaced out, as when it's like evenly spaced out, it looks a lot more effective, and it just looks a lot more uniform, and it looks better in general when it's pulled off. So I'm gonna do an image every 20 frames. So if I just hold down Shift and page down twice, it'll go forward 20 frames, and I'll just cut off the next clip, and I'll just go forward another 20 frames. Same with this, and forward another. Oops. If I just go forward another 20 frames and cut that off. So now I have 4 different layers starting at different points, and it doesn't really seem any different right now. But right now, well, if I go back into the example, you can see that the frame is kind of frozen, and to do that we literally need to freeze the frame. So if we go to the beginning of where you cut the clip, and then you right click, go to time and freeze frame, it will come up with time remapping, and you'll see you have this square keyframe, and basically what it is that it's this frame for the rest of the footage. So as you can see, it's all still until here, where the other layer comes in and it carries on moving again. But if I hide these 3 layers, you can see it's just that frozen frame throughout the whole thing, and this is what we want. So if I just turn these 3 layers back on, and you want to go to the beginning and just do the same for the other one. So time, freeze frame, go to the beginning of here. Oops. Right. Okay, sorry. Right click, time, freeze frame. Beginning of the next one, right click, time, freeze frame. And now if we just hide these, what we effectively have is like images of where the frozen frame is going to occur. And what we need to do now is start with the masking. So if I go to the first frame, and yeah, if I just go to the first frame and grab the pen tool and make sure that you're actually on actually selected the layer, otherwise you end up making a shape layer when you start masking. You want to make sure you are selected on the layer you want to mask out, and when it's on full res it will help, as you'll have a lot more detail to mask with. So what you want to do effectively is just mask around the person, in this case my half dead brother who's still outside. So the more detailed you do this, the better it will look, and I'm just going to do it quite quickly and roughly due to time and tutorial purposes, but I recommend you just take your time on this, as it does look a lot better when you take your time and it's more accurate. So what I'm going to do right now is just pause the video, and then I will come back after I have masked my brother out. Okay, so now that I have masked out my brother, you can see we have a mask, and now if we go forward in the timeline, we can see that we have this kind of frozen image of him, like in that cool kind of running position, and as we go forward it kind of does what we want it to do. But as you can see, it's not motion tracked and it's not the full effect done right now. And what we want to do, we just want to repeat this process for the other layers we have. So we want to mask out, so I want to mask out my brother on the beginning of the 3rd layer here, and then again over here like so, and then again over here, and I just want to mask him out each time. So if I just start masking him out, and this is the main tedious part of creating this nice kind of Stromotion effect, and basically after you've done this, it's just a matter of motion tracking it if your camera is moving. If it's not, then you're just pretty much good to go. That's the effect done after you finish masking. But once you've finished motion tracking it and it's motion tracked well, it's a really nice effect. So what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to pause it here, and I'm just going to come back after I've masked out the other 2 layers. So I'll see you then. Okay, so now that I've finished masking out all the layers, I have something like this, and as you can see we kind of have the effect coming on where he kind of runs and it kind of freeze frames. But as you won't be able to get the mask perfect unless you're some kind of, well, unless you're just purely amazing at masking, you can see over here that I have some kind of rough edges where you can see the outline and stuff, and these don't look too great and they're not like desirable. So one thing we can do to help get rid of these kind of stuff is using the mask property. So we click on the first layer, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rename each layer to their corresponding place in the timeline. So if I go on the first layer and I double hit M to bring up all the mask properties, I'm probably going to feather it about 1 pixel, and as you can see it's already started to clean up by making it a tiny bit softer. It's started to clean up the edges, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make the mask expansion half a pixel. So basically what it will do, where the mask path is, it will actually be inside the mask path by half a pixel. And as you can see, again, it kind of cleans it up again. And if you just go through the separate masks, it will make the mask look a bit better. So if I go forward here, I just turn off this one, you can see that's got that kind of white stuff, well, the buildings in the back really. And if I just feather it, and I'm just gonna stick to feathering by 1 pixel and just minusing the mask expansion by 1 as well. So if I put that to 1 and this to -1, and the same with this one where I seem to have 3 masks, and I'll show you why. So if I just do this, 1 -1, and this is already changed to 1, and I'll just change this to -1 as well. And I actually want to change this one to +1, as basically what's going on here is if I just hide the other layers and I go forward to here, oops, what's happening here is that his legs are crossed over and you have a little triangle in the middle. And the reason, oh yeah, the third mask is just a shoe, because when his shoe falls off, I thought it looked quite cool with his shoe just hanging there in midair. But basically the reason I had to mask out this little triangle here, and I had to change the mask type to subtract, so it cut out this little area. And basically if I was to delete this little mask, you would see that it would encase everything within the yellow mask, and it would keep the same background as it was when the image was where the frame was frozen. But we actually want the footage to be moving, like to its actual original footage to be moving in between his legs. So that's why I made this little mask there, so that it was moving in his legs like that, to make it a lot more realistic. And that's pretty much it for masking. And well, all we have to do now is just to motion track all the separate frozen images. So we have this kind of weird thing right now, and all we have to do is, I have an in-depth motion tracking tutorial, and I'll put that as an annotation right here, so you can just watch that if you really want to learn how to motion track properly. But all I'm going to do here is just quickly just track the footage. So I'll just come back after it's done analyzing and solving the camera. Okay, so now that After Effects has finished tracking this footage, what you want to make sure is that none of the track points are on the moving character itself. Otherwise, when you motion track it, the other frozen frames will follow the moving image. So what you want to make sure is, if there are any like track points on the moving character, all you need to do is just select the points on the character and delete them. And you just want to go frame by frame, as there will be different points at different times during the footage. So it's like, if you see a point, just select it and delete, go forward, and if there are any new points, just select them and delete. But in this footage, it didn't track my brother at all, so that saved me having to go through that. But it doesn't take too long to do that anyway, but you want to make sure you do that, otherwise when you motion track the other layers, it will come out a bit funny. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn back on the 4 layers, and if I just go to the first layer here, and as you can see, nothing's actually happening. And that's because if we go back into the 3D camera tracker, we need to create a camera. So now that we've got our camera, you can still see that nothing is happening, and that's because we need to change these to 3D layers. And all you do to do that is hit the little 3D layer box there, and if you don't have the switches there, all you need to do is click F4 and they will come up. So as you can see, it's kind of out of line and it's like nowhere near where it's meant to be, and all you need to do is just readjust the position of it. So if I just click P, and I can just readjust it like so, and you want to readjust it as accurately as possible, because in the end it will make that little difference for it being pulled off well and being pulled off badly. And it's just this this part might seem a bit tedious, but as you can see, it's not too hard, and that's pretty much perfect like that. And now if I just zoom out, you can see we have that effect coming along really nicely there. And it might seem like it's moving a little bit, but I did record this by hand, so the footage is kind of shaky, so the track didn't come out too well. As you can see, there's an error of about 1.85 pixels, which isn't great, but anyway, it's good enough. So now time to go on to the second image. So if I just hide the first one, and if I turn the second layer to a 3D image, you can see that it's shifted again. So again, all we need to do is just readjust the position, and just gonna go through and do it. That's pretty well done. So now if we see, we've got our two images coming on nicely. If I turn on the first one as well, like that, so we've got our first two things. And on the third one, just make that 3D, hide the other two so that they don't come in the way, and I'm just going to shift it across like so. And now as you can see, we've actually shifted it across and it's pretty much in line, but it's still kind of small, so we might have to move it in the Z axis just to bring it out. And sometimes if you click R, you sometimes have to adjust the orientation, as the camera tracker angles are sometimes a little weird, dodgy, I don't know, but sometimes you might have to adjust the orientation as well. But that's pretty well done there. So we have our third image nicely done there, and now just hide that and time for the fourth one. So again, the same thing, first make it 3D and it shifts across, yes, bring it along, and as you can see, we kind of have to adjust it here just to match up the original footage, and we might have to move out. And just take your time on this. I'm just doing it extremely quickly just to save time in this tutorial, but it doesn't take too long, and it's a bit off right now, but I'm not gonna make you like sit there just watching me for about half an hour just trying to sort it out. And as you can see, this is the effect done. So if I just zoom out and turn on the other layers, you see that as it comes in, it freezes there and it's motion tracked. And something I recommend doing is I recommend making a mask on the shadows, if there are any shadows when you like freeze the frame. When I froze the frame, there weren't really any shadows, but like say if you froze the frame in midair and you had this little shadow underneath the shoe, I recommend doing the shadow because it looks a lot more realistic, like it's actually frozen there as well. Because as you can see right here, it looks like he's just kind of floating there, so it would have looked better with the shadow, but that's just something you can do in your own time. So this is pretty much the effect done. And of course, just use it like when in your edits, and if you pull it off well, it's a really nice effect, like when Baker pulled it off really nicely here, where it was all perfectly mastered, motion tracked here. So this is pretty much the end of the tutorial. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to thumbs this video up if you liked it. Subscribe and comment and all the other stuff, and maybe a favorite if this like really helped you out. So oh, there's the ambulance coming from my brother, but yeah, so thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next tutorial.